Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. American Comics. Transformed into a super race, Spider-Gwen was stunned. Chapter 41. In fact, this is also the reason why Sun Wuming dared to unscrupulously sell out the stock before Stark's accident without being investigated. As a leading company in the stock market, the stock trading volume of Stark Industries is billions of dollars every day, and his little money can't make any waves at all. Those senior time travelers, who were approached by SHIELD just because they sold a stock, really thought too much. Nick Fury hasn't been this busy yet. Jingle bell. The phone rang suddenly. Sun Wuming took out the phone, and then realized that he had picked it up by mistake. It was the work phone that rang. Winston, what can I do for you? Sir, the properties of the Kamura family have been cleared. Do you want to sell them all, or keep them in business? If you need manpower, the Continental Hotel also has a group of elite business talents at your disposal. Sun Wuming thought for a while, and replied, "Come out with a list, I'll go over and have a look in a while." Okay. After hanging up the phone, Gwen asked, "Are you going out?" She heard the conversation just now clearly, but Gwen didn't plan to take care of these things. No matter what Sun Wuming did, she didn't want to interfere. Therefore, the cultivation of these years is still somewhat effective. At least Gwen is not the kind of superhero that the six relatives do not recognize. It's a small matter, just go there in the afternoon. Come on, I'll continue to give you a massage. After dinner in the afternoon, Gwen continued to modify her battle suit, while Sun Wuming came to the Continental Hotel. Winston warmly welcomed him in. He has been very proud of himself these days. Because of the fear of Sun Wuming, although the other high-table forces were reluctant to part with the fat of the United States, they still involuntarily shrank a lot of forces. After all, no one wants their family to be sent a wave of blue terrifying energy. He has now become the North American director of the high table, and the manager of the Continental Hotel has also become Karen, who used to be the front desk. However, Winston still did not change his office location. "Sir, this records all the property of the Kamura family." Winston respectfully handed over a booklet. Sun Wuming took it and looked through it. Most of the above industries are casinos, nightclubs, bars, second-hand car dealers and other profiteering industries. The flower business had been destroyed by Winston long before Sun Wuming. Although this kind of thing that harms others and himself is harming the people of the United States, he will never touch it. After counting, the cash flow on the books of the Kamura family was $1.5 billion, and the total fixed assets also exceeded $3 billion. You can do it yourself. If you think it's good, you can stay. If you can't make money, you can sell it. Sun Wuming asked casually, "Have you collected all the artworks of the Kamura family?" Winston hastily handed over another list. "It's all on it, and according to your instructions, it's all been sealed." Sun Wuming nodded. He doesn't like art, but Gwen can't help it. Gwen is not only a master of science and engineering, but also very interested in many arts. She also said that her dream when she grows up is to have her own museum. Now Sun Wuming is preparing for that. The girl's birthday is in August, and Gwen must be very happy to give her a museum at that time. The Kamura family is worthy of being a mafia from Italy, a country of literature and art. They have collected a lot of precious paintings and antiques, more than enough to open a museum. Acquisition of a large museum in Manhattan, and furnishing according to the top configuration. Yes. Sun Wuming quickly flipped through the list of artworks, and saw many famous paintings that only appeared in textbooks. There are even two of Van Gogh's, sunflowers, and Da Vinci's, the Madonna of Benoist, should be in Mousie's museum, but I didn't expect him to see it here. Winston, do you think these things are genuine? Sun Wuming didn't want to have fakes in the museum given to Gwen. Winston responded humorously, "Sir, you can doubt the fighting power and moral standards of the Italians, but they are professional in art appreciation." Sun Wuming laughed when he said this. At the end of the flip, his action stopped abruptly, and his eyes burst out with brilliance. Even the momentum leaked out unconsciously. Winston felt depressed for a while, thinking that he had said something wrong and angered Sun Wuming, so he quickly lowered his head. "Where did the Kamura family get this thing?" Sun Wuming asked, pointing to the items in the picture, and Winston hurriedly looked over. In the picture, a yellow crystal ball has 3 stars inside, but other than that, there is nothing special about it. But, for Sun Wuming, it was nothing short of a depth charge. Apart from the one in his hand, he finally saw the second Dragon Ball in 17 years. Winston said with difficulty. Sir, the members of the Kamura family have been given by you. Call. Sun Wuming took a deep breath and sat back on his seat. Bring me back the Dragon Ball, and check it out. Without daring to delay at all, Winston turned around and walked out of the office to get busy. Sun Wuming slowly calmed down the excitement in his heart. Sure enough, Dragon Ball also came to this world with him, and appeared on the earth. Collect Dragon Balls and summon dragons. Sun Wuming had only one thought in mind. Saiyans are a natural fighting race, but this race is not a long-lived species, but their physical functions will be maintained at the peak level before death, so as to ensure that their combat power will not decline. The normal lifespan is several hundred years. The cultivation of qi can also make people live longer. Guixian has more than 300 people, and it seems that he can live for another few decades. Adding the two together, Sun Wuming estimates that his lifespan will not exceed 1,000 years. He is not greedy for life and afraid of death, he just wants to decide his own life. If I want to die, I will die, if I want to live, I will live. Not only that, but with Shenlong in hand, it is equivalent to having an extra whole card. In terms of combat, Shenlong is a badass, but in terms of fulfilling wishes, Sun Wuming still recognizes Shenlong's business ability. Seeing that Sun Wuming attached so much importance to the bead, Winston did not dare to delay at all, and brought the Dragon Ball back as quickly as possible. Sir, this bead was obtained by Santino from Sotheby's auction house. I also called the auction house just now. They are also acting as a proxy, so I don't know the specific information. Sun Wuming took the Dragon Ball and touched it around. The material was no different from the one-star Dragon Ball in his home. He was sure it was genuine. Find them back, find them all, whoever can find the real Dragon Balls, I can agree to one condition, even if you kill the President of the United States. Sun Wuming's words frightened Winston, and he couldn't help but look up at the ordinary bead. Dragon Ball. What kind of magical power does this Dragon Ball have that can make this person offer such an exaggerated condition? If he can be found and handed over to Sun Wuming, will his position be more secure? For a moment Winston's heart burned. Because of Sun Wuming's words, killers all over North America received this unconditional mission. Whoever can get this bead known as the Dragon Ball will receive a reward of $10 million from the Continental Hotel, as well as a promise that is more precious than blood alliances. Some well-informed people even knew who the poster of this mission was. The whole of New York is completely insane. Countless killers flooded the streets, sneaked into the mansions of the rich, broke into universities, and kidnapped archaeology professors. The crime rate in New York is skyrocketing, and Mr. George has been in the police station for 3 consecutive days. These killers don't know what the Dragon Ball is, but they know that the last Dragon Ball appeared at an art auction. So the direction of their search is also closer to the artwork. Some people with a wrong mind came to the door with their own imitated Dragon Balls. Sun Wuming left the 3-star Dragon Ball in the Continental Hotel. Just by touching it, you can easily tell the difference between the real one and the fake one. On the most day, Winston killed more than a dozen counterfeiters before the killers stopped. With such a big move, many forces got the news, and they didn't know what Winston was going crazy. Even John Wick, who had completely retired, approached Wuming. I heard you were looking for some Dragon Balls. Sun Wuming was shocked. That's right, you have news. I've never seen it before. John Wick spread his hands, but I can ask some old friends for you. Okay, I hope you can find it, at least the reward is not given to outsiders. Forget about the reward, you've helped me enough. John shook his head, indifferent to the rewards offered by countless people. He is very satisfied with his current life. He walks his dog and plays with cars every day. His life is plain but at ease. The dog given to him by his deceased wife died, and the current dog was adopted, and John did not give him another name. Giving a name means becoming a family member, and he doesn't want to experience the pain of loss again. The two chatted for a while, and John left. Dragon Ball. In Hell's Kitchen, in a commercial building, Jin Bing played with the Dragon Ball in his hand, which contained 6 stars. In the eyes of the outside world, Mr. Wilson Fisk is a big entrepreneur, a big philanthropist, and also a collector. He and his wife Vanessa met in the museum, and Jin Bing's artistic accomplishment is very high. This 6-star Dragon Ball was obtained from a gangster he exterminated. At first glance, the Dragon Ball is round and round, very cute, but that's all. At most, the material is a bit strange. But people with a high level of appreciation like Jin Bin can find the extraordinariness of Dragon Ball. It's too round. The current technological precision simply cannot produce such a smooth sphere. This alone is eligible to become his golden collection. He also learned a lot of information from his own channels about what happened to the Kamura family that night. The killer he wanted to recruit turned out to be such a terrifying character. Jin Bin, who knows current affairs, immediately stopped his men's actions, not daring to have any more careful thoughts. But now, Sun Wuming's high reward has given Jin a new idea. Do you want to give the Dragon Ball to the Saiyan, and let him deal with the hand for himself? What does the Continental Hotel want to do? New York is already in chaos. SHIELD, although Nick Fury's focus has been on the missing Tony Stark lately, that doesn't mean he's ignoring Sun Wuming. With such a big move, he naturally got the news. Although I don't know what the role of the Dragon Ball is, but it is definitely not as simple as a work of art that makes the Continental Hotel so frantically search. Just in case, he also sent his men to collect Dragon Balls. But it's not for making friends with Sun Wuming, but I want to do my own research to see if I can discover the mystery. Just like that, the entire eastern United States became a mess, and Dragon Ball became a hot search term overnight. Everyone is looking for its whereabouts. A month passed quietly. The undercurrents in the underground world are turbulent, and Gwen is also busy. During this time, she has become more and more comfortable with the identity of Spider-Woman, and she can be seen actively in the streets and alleys of New York. The rising crime rate has made the citizens of New York have a better evaluation of Spider-Woman. Compared with the inefficiency of the police, the elusive Gwen can serve as a better deterrent. Especially the time period from 7 o'clock to 12 o'clock every night is the time when Spider-Woman appears most frequently. Even gangsters will have scruples and can stagger this time. This also made Gwen more happy and proud, and often showed off to Sun Wuming. And Sun Wuming won 2 more Dragon Balls within this month, 2 stars and 7 stars respectively. He was also very straightforward and fulfilled his promise, and agreed to each other with one condition. The condition for a killer to contribute 2 stars to Dragon Ball is very simple. To destroy a gangster on the West Coast who killed his parents is so simple that Sun Wuming doesn't need to do it. The killer under the Continental Hotel is enough. As for the guy who took out the Dragon Ball, it really was John Wick. As the #1 killer in New York, the #1 killer, John's reputation in the entire killer world is extremely resounding, and his friends are all over the world. This Dragon Ball was sent from Gaul by an old friend of his. John has nothing to ask Sun Wuming to do, and this condition remains. However, Sun Wuming also made a guarantee that no one will disturb his retirement life in the future. Wuming, how do I wear this? Fine, what about this body? It's also very good. Forget it, it's still the first set. Gwen, if you drag on, we'll be late. At Gwen's house, Sun Wuming stayed in the living room, watching Gwen change into different clothes helplessly. Today is the school's anniversary celebration, and Gwen's band will also perform on stage. She also made an appointment with 2 teammates to practice a few more times in the last minute. But it was difficult to choose clothes. It's almost 4 o'clock. Looking at the alarm clock on the wall, Gwen exclaimed, and rushed into the room to change into the first outfit with the fastest clothes. A blue loose sweater, a pair of ripped jeans on the lower body, and a pair of white canvas shoes. The graceful figure is completely concealed, but it matches the band's rock theme very well. Not bad. Sun Wuming gave a thumbs up. It looks like you're playing on the West Coast. Stop mocking me. That's all, let's go. Gwen rolled her eyes, and ran out the door with the drumsticks on her back. Arriving at school, Gwen headed straight to the music room to find MJ and Betty Brant for final practice. And Sun Wuming came to the classroom. Maybe it's because the people in the Marvel world have big hearts, or it's simply that people in the United States have a high degree of acceptance of accidents. Even though such a big incident happened at the school a month ago, everyone recovered quickly. The class was very lively. More than a dozen people were rehearsing Shakespeare's Les Miserables, and many students were watching. Peter, Sun Wuming greeted him, and Peter, who was sitting by the window in a daze, heard someone tell him to turn around. Hi, Wuming. Peter squeezed out a smile. Seeing that you are not very interested, what happened? It's nothing, I'm just thinking about Dr. Connors, and I don't know how he is doing now, whether he has returned to normal. Probably being dissected. Sun Wuming complained silently in his heart, but said on his mouth, even if he turns back into a human being, he won't be able to appear in society anymore. The crimes he committed are enough to be sentenced to 500 years. I know, I just feel sorry for him. Peter is the one who knows best why Connors is obsessed with developing animal serums. In his early years, Connors was a field doctor who accidentally lost an arm on the battlefield. Since then, his dream has been to grow his arm back. In the end, he ended up turning into a monster. It's hard not to be sad. Poor people must have something to hate, Peter. Some things cannot be forgiven for what he did just because there was a reason for it. Sun Wuming shook his head. None of the villains in Marvel has a tragic past, especially these mutants, each one has a more miserable life experience. And the rule in this world seems to be that once the evolution fails, the dark side of the mind will be infinitely magnified, and from then on it will go on the road of anti-humanity. There is no one anymore. The two chatted for a while, and Wuming asked Peter about his uncle's recent situation. Uncle Ben is fine. He has some problems with his eyesight, but that's okay, he's retiring soon. Speaking of his family, Peter also smiled. It's a blessing in disguise, but you know it's not a blessing. Although he didn't become a Spider-Man, Uncle Ben didn't sacrifice, and he doesn't know whether it is good or bad for Peter. Next, Peter asked Sun Wuming University where he wanted to go. In the United States, generally in the third year of high school, the last year is the senior year of high school, you have already started to decide which university you want to go to. Within a few days, teachers will find students to understand the situation, ask their wishes and give suggestions. I'm definitely staying in New York, I'm used to living here, and I don't bother to change places. Sun Wuming replied, in fact, there is really no good place to stay in this place, since aliens invaded the Earth, they had to choose here. Chidori came once, then Thanos came again, and then Mephisto from other latitudes. But Gwen didn't want to leave. Both his parents took root in New York, especially after the Lizard Man appeared. Gwen became more aware of the dangers of the city. In order to protect Mr. George, she will not leave either. So Sun Wuming can only hold his nose to recognize it, otherwise he really wants to go to UCLA in college and experience the same Gold Coast in California. Maybe, you can even take a water gun and fight 300 rounds with California beauties in the sea. That's great, I plan to apply for Columbia University, and we can meet each other often in the future. Peter said a little happily that he didn't have many friends in high school, Harry was the only one, and Wuming was the rest. As a little transparent in the school, Peter cherishes friendship very much. Are you going to take a biology major? Sun Wuming asked meaningfully. Yes, let me give you some advice, Peter. Sun Wuming patted Peter's thin shoulders, and said earnestly, biology has no future, and physics is the destination. Anyway, your physics grades are also very good. Don't hang yourself on a tree. Look at those who study biology, Connors has put himself into it. In the Marvel world, it is generally those who research biological and genetic problems that cause serious troubles, and Sun Wuming does not want Peter to be involved in it one day. Seeing what he said so seriously, although Peter didn't understand it, he still said that he would seriously consider it. It was half an hour before the start of the celebration party, and Sun Wuming also went to the auditorium. The campus became lively. Many well-known alumni were invited back, and many people gathered in small groups, talking loudly. These people dressed in suits and leather shoes, dressed meticulously, turning the auditorium into a Vanity Fair. Midtown High School is an aristocratic school. The annual school celebration is not so much a celebration for the school, but a place for these students to expand their network. Sun Wuming went straight through these boring people and found the tall George in the third row of seats. Uncle George, Wuming is here, sit next to me. As the chief of police in New York, although Mr. George has no money, he has a high social status and is surrounded by a group of people. Seeing him let a young man sit next to him, he was a little puzzled. I heard that the chief of police is not a little princess. Who is this boy, his relative? George didn't know how to explain it. Could it be that this kid was Gwen's boyfriend? He hasn't admitted it yet. The performance started immediately, and the people around George had to disperse. Only then did he have the opportunity to ask. Which one was Gwen to come out to perform? It should be the fifth. George breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I can go back to work overtime after the show. Sun Wuming looked at him with pity. Is this a social animal? When watching a show, you have to think about work. With a salary of several $1,000s a month, what are you going to do? Brat, what kind of eyes are you looking at? George was a little annoyed. I'm all working, and you will be so busy when you enter the society. Impossible. Sun Wuming shook his head. I'm already rich and free. After graduation, I will accompany Gwen to travel around the world. It is impossible to go to work. Pissed, George almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. It was as if a knife had been stabbed in the chest, it was so hurtful. He turned his head away, ignoring that brat Sun Wuming. Suddenly, the lights dimmed, the host took the stage, chattered a lot, and the anniversary celebration finally began. The first to perform on stage was an American talk show. Even after living in New York for more than 10 years, Sun Wuming still did not understand the jokes of these talk shows. It's not as interesting as the facial expressions of the actors. Therefore, when the people around were amused by the students on stage, Sun Wuming remained expressionless. Some want to sleep. What follows is also very boring. 1 drama, 2 choruses. The most outrageous one was actually magic. A black student in the yard was dressed in black and stood in front of the black background board with his eyes closed. It's really the same as disappearing. What the hell? Sun Wuming complained in his heart, but fortunately Gwen finally appeared. Here we come. Gwen, look this way. Mr. George was much more excited than Sun Wuming, holding up the camera to take pictures frantically. Gwen heard her father's voice and showed a hearty smile in the direction of the two. Also gave Sun Wuming a wink. Cute, think. There was thunderous applause in the auditorium. Compared with the previous programs, Gwen and his 2 teammates' performances were already the most exciting. A classic rock song, Yesterday Again, by Capone was sung very tastefully. The home game was MJ, and Sun Wuming saw Peter's eyes straight. A while ago, Peter asked him to ask Gwen for help, and he went on a date with MJ twice. I don't know if the two will make it or not. After stepping off the stage, Mr. George praised his daughter a few words before leaving in a hurry. Gwen also sat in his seat and held Sun Wuming's arm affectionately. How was the performance just now? Tie pants. Speak well, and don't allow yin and yang to be strange. It's really good, you can all debut at your level. Hee, I don't. The band is just a hobby. I have no plans to become a big star. Those who had just gathered around George saw the two intimately biting their ears, and they were suddenly taken aback. It turned out to be the director's son-in-law. The show continued, and Sun Wuming didn't have much interest in watching it, but with Gwen chatting with him, it wasn't that boring. Crack, the lights in the auditorium dimmed, and many people were in a trance. What's wrong? What happened? It's an earthquake. There was an earthquake just now. Someone screamed, and after speaking, the ground shook violently again, and the dust from the roof fell in large areas. Many people couldn't stand still, and the scene was a mess. Sun Wuming took Gwen's hand, squeezed a passage and walked out of the room. Behind them, the students also ran away in a hurry, as if Dr. Lizard had come to Midtown High School again. Why do earthquakes happen? It's not scientific. Gwen was very astonished. Earthquakes are rare in the geographical location of New York. The last earthquake that was felt was more than 100 years ago in 1884. Sun Wuming didn't speak. The earthquake came and went quickly. Many people were over before they even ran out of the auditorium. They froze in place, not knowing whether to continue running or go back. To be on the safe side, the school canceled the light show ahead of time. Except for the last few groups of students who hadn't performed yet, they were a little dissatisfied. Everyone agreed with this decision. What's wrong with you, Wuming? You've been acting weird since just now. On the way home, Gwen looked at Sun Wuming, who had been bowing his head in thought, and couldn't help asking. Ah, only then did Sun Wuming raise his head, but his attention was never on his side. No, I'm fine, I just found something unusual. What's abnormal? The earthquake just now was not quite right. Sun Wuming said in a low voice without any intention of hiding. At the moment of the earthquake, I felt a huge aura. Chi, you mean, the earthquake was man-made? Gwen's voice rose involuntarily. I'm not sure, that aura is very strange. Sun Wuming shook his head. I was looking for the source of that aura just now, but I didn't notice anything. This is the main reason for Sun Wuming's confusion. Qi is a symbol of life energy. Although the qi of a normal person is not strong, it is full of vitality. But the anger just now was fleeting, and Sun Wuming felt lifeless towards him, like a pool of stagnant water. Moreover, such a gigantic qi, not much weaker than he is now, disappears as soon as it disappears. There's something weird going on here. After hearing Sun Wuming's words, Gwen also fell into silence, and said at the door of the house, anyway, I'll investigate. If it's really man-made, it's really terrible. In the face of natural disasters, all beings are equal. Once someone can really control the earthquake, the lethality will be more terrifying than nuclear weapons. Sun Wuming also nodded. Pay attention to safety, let me know if you encounter anything, don't be brave. No problem. Gwen smiled sweetly. After staying at Sun Wuming's house for a while, Gwen left. And Sun Wuming called Winston again and asked him to check the information about the earthquake. The next morning, after Sun Wuming got up, he received the news about the earthquake. Sure enough, there is something weird. The epicenter of the earthquake was in New York, and more precisely in Manhattan, Hell's Kitchen. Seeing this place name, Sun Wuming thought of something, but couldn't say it for a while, so he could only continue reading. According to the information obtained by Winston, the center of the earthquake was a midtown financial circle under construction, and all the construction sites there had been suspended, awaiting the report from the government department. The company responsible for the construction of those buildings is the United Construction Company. The power of the hand. A flash of light flashed through Sun Wuming's mind. Hand, earthquake. Then, the owner of the qi he sensed yesterday is indeed not a living person. But the Keel. In the Marvel world, it is said that in the Far East, there is a mysterious space, Kunlun. This Kunlun has nothing to do with traditional Oriental mythology, it is just a strange subspace, and the Keel is a special product of Kunlun. The guardian dragon of Kunlun is called Shulao, and the Keel is the corpse left by Shulao after death or reincarnation. With the powder of Keel, Kunlun can make elixir of life. Hundreds of years ago, several traders stole part of the Keel, escaped from Kunlun and founded the Hand, and those traders also became the 5 fingers of the Hand. After such a long time, the Keel powder in the hands of the Hand is almost used up. Under the ground in New York, a complete Keel was buried. The movement last night must have been made by the Hand to get the Keel. Let's not talk about why the Keel of Kunlun appeared underground in New York. People from various countries and races in the Hand Association are still Kunlun protégé, and finally a person from the United States was chosen as Iron Fist. These made Sun Wuming sick. Let's just say that the Keel has actually become the dragon vein of New York. As long as the Keel is taken away, the foundation of New York will collapse, causing an unprecedented earthquake. Such a nonsense world rule can only be met in Marvel. After all, New York, the center of the world, knows everything. Sun Wuming despises the immortality of the Keel. He really has no appetite for bibimbap with ashes, but the Keel has other magical functions, so he must hold it in his hand. Immediately called Winston and asked him to send someone to pay close attention to the movements of the Hand Society and notify him as soon as there was news. By the way, let's monitor Danny Rand's movements. This is the benefit of having someone under your command, you don't have to do everything yourself, just give an order, and naturally countless younger brothers will do it for you. Sun Wuming praised his wit. After finishing all this, he called Gwen again and asked her to take a leave of absence for him, and then disappeared into the villa. He was going to see if he could break the seal around the Keel with his own strength. Coming to Hell's Kitchen, near Midtown's financial circle, Sun Wuming flew into the sky and quickly locked onto a building. He felt a lot of chi in the underground of this building, which was much stronger than ordinary people. Must be the Hand. Sneaking in quietly all the way. Sure enough, there is a huge amounts of pit under the building, dozens of ninjas are guarding here, behind is a dark marble wall. These ninjas are much stronger than ordinary people, and even the leading two are 10 times stronger than ordinary people. It is estimated that the keel was also used. Swish. Sun Wuming was unintentionally entangled with the miscellaneous fish, and his speed exploded with full force. The ninjas blinked and saw a young man appearing in front of them. Before he could shout, Sun Wuming punched out. Boom. The strong punching wind directly blasted the dozen or so ninjas in front of them into a blood mist, and the rest of the ninjas who stood scattered escaped unharmed, and someone immediately wanted to press the alarm. Just from the punch just now, they knew how terrifying this person was. But Sun Wuming's speed was too fast, and his neck was twisted before his fingers touched the siren. In just 5 seconds, all the ninjas in the underground space were wiped out. Sun Wuming stood in front of the wall. After observing for a long time, he stretched out his arms and released his chi. Buzz buzz. The walls shook, but calmed down quickly. Sun Wuming frowned and retracted his arms. The other end of the wall is indeed the keel, and he can already feel the cold aura inside, which contains enormous energy. But this seal is more troublesome than previously imagined. The power of the seal has been linked with the keel, forming a whole, endless. If the seal is destroyed by violence, Sun Wuming can do it. With Kamehei Qigong at full power, it is absolutely easy to deal with a small seal. But at that time, half of New York City will be blown up, and the keel will be completely destroyed, which is thankless. If you rely on your brain. Sorry, he is a Saiyan, what brains? It seems that we can only wait for Iron Fist to find us. Sun Wuming whispered, but decided to wait. Iron Fist was born in Kunlun, and his power and keel come from the same source. His power can break the seal without hurting the keel inside. Just now his action caused another earthquake. I believe that those heroes wandering around the streets will be able to quickly find out the hand's head, so Sun Wuming is not in a hurry. Not long after noticing the unusual movement, the 5 fingers of the hand also rushed to the scene one after another. Looking at the stumped limbs and arms on the ground, Mrs. Gao and Murakami's expressions immediately sank. Who did it? Who is it? The ninjas here are all under the 2 of them, and the money and energy spent to train a qualified ninja are astronomical. They lost so much at once, and their anger was justified. It's not the Daredevil gang, they don't have the ability to find out here so quickly. The leader Alexandra calmly analyzed. Another force is targeting us, and the existence of the keel may have been exposed. Suo Wanda came to the wall to observe carefully, and concluded, the seal is still there, and it is safe for the time being. Although the keel was not snatched away, 5 fingers couldn't be happy at all. Recently, New York has become more and more chaotic, and troubles are one after another. The Defenders Alliance headed by Daredevil has been fighting against them, and now there is another mysterious force targeting Keel. Alexandra took a deep breath. Botu, Suo Wanda, call all your men to New York, we are running out of keels. Now is not the time for infighting, the keel is gone, we all have to die. The remaining 4 fingers remained silent, and did not refute Alexandra's decision. The 5 fingers kept fighting openly and secretly, and Botu and Murakami were still eyeing the position of the leader. But compared to the continuation of life, that bit of rights and money is really nothing. Soon, the 5 reached an agreement to concentrate the hand's power in New York. The power map of Hell's Kitchen has changed again, and the original Jin has already occupied most of the interests. But the hand suddenly had a lot of fresh troops, and Jin Bin was forced to spit out the area he had eaten before. Under such circumstances, he finally made up his mind and asked his subordinates to send the Dragon Ball to the Continental Hotel. Kim doesn't want to see me. Sun Wuming played with the 6-star Dragon Ball in his hand, and Winston beside him told the origin of the Dragon Ball. Yes, he didn't ask for it, he just wanted to talk to you sometime later. I don't have that time. I have to study for the final exam. Sun Wuming shook his head, rejecting Jin Bing's request without any hesitation. The corners of Winston's mouth twitched, and he could not continue. Until now, Winston is still incredulous about Sun Wuming's true identity. Well, you call him, and I'll talk to him on the phone. After thinking about it, Sun Wuming still said, since Jin Bing contributed a Dragon Ball, it shouldn't be too unkind. The phone was connected quickly, and a deep male voice came. I hope you have good news, Mr. Winston. Wilson Fisk. Far away in Hell's Kitchen, when he heard a young man talking, Jin Bing was taken aback for a moment but quickly realized. Your Excellency Saiyan, it's me. I heard from Winston that you want to see me, so that's waved. Put forward your request, and I will help you achieve it. Sun Wuming went straight to the point and didn't give Jin a chance to be courteous. Jin Bing's face changed. He didn't expect Sun Wuming to be so shameless. He is the Underworld Emperor of New York. One word can decide the lives of countless people. Even those high-ranking politicians and congressmen must be cautious when facing him. His rare low-profile proposed to meet, but was rejected. It took a while for Jin Bing to adjust his mentality. Now he is asking for others, and Sun Wuming is not those cowardly politicians. In terms of power and rights, the other party is even more superior to him. So, keep your head down and be a man. Since Your Excellency Saiyan has no time, forget it. My condition is to destroy the hand. You want to deal with the hand? Sun Wuming raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect Jin Bing to propose such a condition. Could it be that Your Excellency is related to the hand? Jin Bing's heart tightened. No, I'm just surprised. Sun Wuming said. I agree to your conditions, but the current hand association cannot be destroyed. Give me a month, and then Hell's Kitchen will be your territory, Fisk. After speaking, without giving Jin Bing any time to react, he hung up the phone. Jin Bing listened to the busy tone on the phone in a daze, and it took him a long time to react. He didn't mind waiting a month. As a mafia hero, one of the skills he mastered was forbearance. However, from the tone of the other party, it seems that there was a plan to target the hand. Is his condition in vain? After thinking this through, Jin Bing felt tightness in his chest. Okay, this Dragon Ball can be regarded as a prostitution. Sun Wuming had a smile on his face. Even if Jin didn't mention it, he couldn't let the hand continue to exist. As long as they lose their use value, they should also disappear. How's the situation with Danny Rand? Sun Wuming asked. Our people can only follow him during the day. That daredevil has very keen senses and can't get close at all. Recently Danny Rand has been very close to Luke Cage and Jessica Jones that you mentioned. The progress is too slow. Sun Wuming knocked on the table. Find a way to reveal some information about the hand to them, anyone can. Yes, sir. A week later, the defenders finally discovered the conspiracy of the hand, and Sun Wuming, who was meditating at home, also received a text message. Daredevil and others rushed to the Midtown Financial Circle to rescue Iron Fist, who had been kidnapped, and several of their friends also went to the police station to report the incident. On the construction site, Daredevil changed into his own battle suit, with Luke Cage and Jessica beside him. The condition of the three of them was very bad. Their infiltration was quickly discovered by the guards, and immediately afterward, Yuan constantly surrounded by ninjas. The ninjas of these hand associations seem to be endless, and they know how to cooperate. Even though the three of them have strange abilities, they are still hard to beat with two fists. As the leader, Daredevil is the most miserable, Luke Cage is indestructible, and Jessica Jones is extremely powerful. As for Daredevil, except for his radar-like perception and superb fighting skills, his physical fitness is just a strong ordinary person. We can't go on like this, there are too many of them. Don't talk about rescuing Iron Fist, even we have to get in. Jessica Jones made a hard throw, throwing a ninja and sending many people flying. Matt, aren't you a lawyer? Use your high IQ brain to find a way. Luke Cage was at the forefront, and a group of hand ninja blades slashed on his body, and the blades were curled up, but they couldn't break the skin. I'm a lawyer, not a military advisor. Daredevil Matt Murdock complained. Either they are solved, or we are solved, there is no other way. The three of them were beaten violently as soon as they came up, and half of the credit must be attributed to Sun Wuming. If he hadn't suddenly rushed to the seal and killed so many ninjas, alerted the Five Fingers in advance, and gathered most of the living forces from the next door of the world, the defenders would not have fought so hard. But it's too late to say anything now. The three of them knew in their hearts that once the time was too long, the hand would take the Keel. Half of the city will be destroyed. Just when they were anxious, a clear and pleasant voice came to their ears, accompanied by clusters of cobwebs, wrapped around the body of the hand ninja, disrupting their formation. Wow, there are so many people gathered together at night, what kind of party are you having? Spider-Woman. Seeing the person coming, Jessica cried out in surprise. Unlike Daredevil, a street hero who walks in the dark and is not well known, Gwen is now a well-deserved top-notch in New York City. Defeating the Lizard Man twice has accumulated a high reputation for her, and the usual Gwen is just like the townspeople call her, she is everyone's good neighbor, and she has no airs at all. Many people also posted photos with Spider-Woman on social networking sites, which also brought her fame to a higher level. They all felt that it was a very safe thing to watch Spider-Woman drag Cobweb around in the streets of New York. The reason Jessica is happy isn't because she also adores Spider-Woman. At this time, the arrival of any helper is good news, especially a strong support like Spider-Woman. After punching and kicking, Gwen forced a way out and came to the three of them, looking at them curiously. Hey, can you tell me what happened? And this gentleman, your battle suit covers your eyes, is it really okay? I recommend that you can use a full-face hood, it works well. Gwen chattered a lot when he came up, and silenced all three of Daredevil. When she stopped talking, Daredevil took the time to say, Spider-Woman, we need your help. The Hand has huge amounts of conspiracy, and there are Keels hundreds of meters deep underground. Once they are allowed to take the Keel, half of New York will be destroyed. Dragon, is it the one I imagined? Gwen kicked the ninja who rushed up, and asked curiously. It's the kind of dragon with huge wings. It may be different from what you think, it is the dragon of the East. That's even cooler, I'll join. Gwen's interest was even higher, and she decided to take a few photos of Wuming when she saw the Keel. Compared with the shabby defenders, the current Gwen is simply a high-level boss with superb equipment. A brand new spider battlesuit has been made, with huge amounts of improvements in defense and cobweb quality. During this period of time, she has not let go of the cultivation of the Guaxian style, and her skills have become more fierce. With the use of force skills, she can fully burst out a terrifying force of nearly 100 tons. And the ninja of the Hand cuts on the spider battlesuit, and the sharp blade cannot break through the defense of the battlesuit. With her help, the ninjas on the ground were quickly eliminated, and several people took the elevator to the underground space. You are so powerful, almost half of those ninjas were solved by you. Perhaps the number of female heroes is scarce, so Jessica chatted with Gwen involuntarily. You are also great, much better than the one with the blindfold. In fact, I envy your eyes more, they are so beautiful. I'm mixed race and my grandma is. At this point in the elevator, the two girls chattered and quickly entered into a chatting state, regardless of the occasion or attire, listening to the conversations that would happen between ordinary girls. The corner of Daredevil's mouth twitched. This Spider-Woman was even more out of touch than Jessica, and her real age was definitely not that old. But thinking about the opponent's strength just now, it can only be said that the gap between people is too great. The fighting skills he has practiced since he was a child are meaningless in front of abilities and mutations. Click. When the elevator reached the bottom, Daredevil said in a deep voice, "Be careful, the 5 fingers of the Hand are not simple characters, each of them has a special ability. Don't be careless." Gwen nodded. Wuming taught her this, never underestimate your enemy. After opening the door, several people rushed out quickly. There were already a large number of ninjas waiting here. After seeing them, they all rushed up. Why is Spider-Woman here? Alexandra frowned, watching this unexpected variable. Botu, Murakami, Suo Wanda, you go and pester Spider-Woman. After the 3 fingers heard the order, they rushed up decisively, looking like ghosts. Gwen, who was killing all directions, immediately sensed the danger, and Cobweb shot towards the 3 fingers. Swish. The 3 disappeared, then emerged from the ground again, startling Gwen. Hell, you guys are really ninjas. These minions dressed as ninjas before could only use swordsmanship, and Gwen thought they were just called ninjas. Facing the siege of the 3 fingers, Gwen easily dodged, leapt, kicked Botu down, and was forced back by Murakami's blade. If she is willing to kill, with all her strength, the 3 fingers will definitely not last long. But it's a pity that Gwen's thinking still hasn't changed, and he is merciful in every shot. Do you want to watch your friend die in front of your eyes? Open the seal, and I will leave New York immediately with my men. Alexandra persuaded again. Only the Iron Fist can break the seal left by the Iron Fist. Don't dream, I won't promise you. Iron Fist's tough words made Alexandra's eyes flash with killing intent, but it quickly disappeared. Now I still need this trash Iron Fist, until the seal is released. She will definitely kill immediately. Whoosh. Daredevil found the right time, threw out the ninja knife and untied the rope that bound Iron Fist. The tacit understanding in the dark seemed to make Iron Fist have anticipated this moment long ago, and had already secretly accumulated strength in advance. When the rope was connected, his fists lit up, and he slammed straight at Alexandra beside him. Just as he was about to hit the target, Sun Wuming suddenly appeared by his side, aiming Iron Fist's fist at the ceiling wall. No, things are changing so quickly that many people don't even notice. It was Iron Fist's voice that attracted the attention of the heroes and villains present. Seeing this, both Luke Cage and Jessica were stunned. When did this man come? Is Iron Fist crazy, and he wants to break the seal? The Hand was also dumbfounded. Was this man who appeared suddenly a helper invited by the leader? Why haven't I seen it before? The leader is brilliant. And Gwen was even more unsteady, and almost fell off the wall. Why did Wuming come over? Iron Fist's desperate roar can't change anything. With his half-baked kung fu, it takes a long time to accumulate energy for a punch, and when the direction is fixed, the punch he punches is not under his control at all. He could only watch helplessly as his glowing fist was printed on the ancient wall. As soon as the two came into contact, the wall glowed with golden light, and a golden shield appeared, rapidly melting around the point hit by the Iron Fist. Alexandra was a little dazed by the sudden surprise, but Iron Fist was angry. Who are you? Do you know what you are doing? A person you can't afford to offend. Well, you have nothing to do here, you can get out. Sun Wuming didn't even look at Iron Fist, just stared at the shield, watching it get weaker and weaker. Hey, why are you doing this? Gwen got rid of the entanglement of the three fingers, jumped to Wuming's side and asked in a low voice. There is a keel inside, so Wuming wants to take the keel too. Do you want to help me then? Because I need what's inside. Rest assured, I'm not taking the keel and destroying New York. Wuming was also a little helpless. Didn't this girl say that she went back to sleep? Why did she come over whenever there was excitement? The keel is mine. No one can touch it. Sun Wuming's words stimulated Alexandra. She snarled, drew out her long knife and slashed at Sun Wuming. The flickering blade almost cut through the air, and let out a sharp whistling. As the leader of the Five Fingers, Alexandra is also the strongest, but she is still trash. Sun Wuming raised his hand slightly, and easily held the ninja knife. It was made of high-strength alloy and could not even leave a white mark on his palm. As soon as he exerted force, the long sword shattered into countless pieces. The yellow light condensed on the tip of the index finger, and before Alexandra could react, her head was blasted off. Lived for hundreds of years, but died so simply. It's really not worth it. The golden shield finally dissipated completely, leaving only the last wall. Without the protection of the seal, the wall is no longer unbreakable. Danny Rand, in order to thank you for helping me break the seal, then I will kill all the people in the Hand Association. If you feel bloody, you can close your eyes. This last sentence was addressed to Gwen. Sun Wuming didn't want to show his murderous side in front of Gwen, but the ninjas and fingers of the Hand had to die. You can hand them over to the police. Gwen tried to dissuade Sun Wuming. Their deaths mean a lot to me, Miss Spider, and I'm sure you'll understand me. Gwen was silent and did not continue to persuade. After finishing speaking, the chi in Sun Wuming's hand rotated at high speed, and the chi in the outer ring was compressed like sawtooth, making a sharp buzzing sound. Chi round cut. This is the unique technique created by Klin, and there is also a detailed training method in Kakarot's training memory. It's not that Kakarot doesn't know many moves, but that he is not used to them. His strongest is still the Kame-style Qigong that he uses from beginning to end. But Sun Wuming is different. He has a lot of interest in these unique moves, and Keelan's Qi Circle Slash is one of them. Qi Yuan Slash does not consume much Qi, but it requires extremely high controllability of Qi, and it is sharper than Kame-hei Qigong. It is a trick for the weak to defeat the strong, but it is also more lethal. The golden disc was thrown out while spinning at an extremely fast speed. Unfortunately, the current Sun Wuming has not yet mastered his cultivation and cannot change the direction of Qi Yuan Slash, so he can only walk in a straight line. Wherever it passes, it is like a sharp kitchen knife, splitting the enemy in two. After throwing several shots in a row, the 3 fingers of a kind of ninja and Botu were all wiped out. Oh yes, here's another one. Sun Wuming looked towards the direction of the elevator entrance, and shot out a qigong wave from his fingertips. Ah! There was a scream, and Mrs. Gao appeared, with a big hole in her chest. After doing all this, Sun Wuming was ready to break the wall to get the keel. No, you can't do that. Without the keel, the geology of New York will keep softening. Iron Fist quickly stopped in front to prevent Sun Wuming from destroying the wall. The 3 daredevils also woke up from the shock just now, and ran to Iron Fist to confront Sun Wuming. Although there is a huge amount of gap in strength, in order to protect the city, self-confessed, they still stood up without hesitation. Gwen looked at Sun Wuming, then looked at those few, did not choose to move, and stood beside her boyfriend. She believed that Sun Wuming would not mess around, and there must be his reasons for doing so. But now is not the time to ask. Gwen just wants to fight for a while, so that Wuming will not kill Jessica and the others. They're not like the Hand, they're not bad guys. Sun Wuming is also very happy with Gwen's attitude. The killing intent in my heart dissipated a lot, and I explained to Daredevil and others in a rare good mood. I won't take away the keel, just absorb part of the power inside. Besides, even if I want to take the keel, you have no ability to stop me. Now, there are 2 options before you. Sun Wuming raised his finger. 1. Get out of the way obediently, I will go in and absorb some energy and leave, and 2. Be knocked out by me, and then I will leave after absorbing energy. Sometimes a choice is given, but it does not mean that this is a multiple choice question. Faced with Sun Wuming's generosity, several street heroes also expressed their attitudes. After 2 seconds of silence, they looked at him firmly. Unless you step on our body, don't even think about entering it. Whether it's a good superhero or a bad supervillain, they all have one big thing in common. That means you can't listen to the words. It's like being brainwashed to only believe what you firmly believe. It is very difficult to convince a superhero to agree with his point of view. In particular, Sun Wuming still doesn't know a few people. Judging from his actions, he can't be connected with a good person. So it's even more impossible to convince Daredevil. Also because of their firm belief, even after seeing the horror of Sun Wuming, they still will not back down. This kind of creature is the so-called superhero. So, Sun Wuming never thought he could be a superhero, they are all paranoid. Well then, Spider-Woman, what's your choice? Sun Wuming shrugged helplessly and looked at Gwen beside him. What about me? Gwen's eyes flashed with cunning, and he snorted proudly, definitely hit you, the big devil, to protect the peace of New York. Daredevil's ear twitches, and by his heartbeat, he can analyze whether people are lying. What Spider-Woman said just now was not lying, but judging from the tone of the conversation between the 2 and the positions just now. Why do I always feel that the 2 of them know each other and their relationship is not ordinary? But at this time they urgently need the combat power of Spider-Woman, and Daredevil will naturally not ask questions. Still playing, right? Sun Wuming looked at Gwen with his arms folded, and a smile appeared in his eyes. Gwen is getting better and better. He continued to walk towards the wall. Iron Fist was the most irritable, his skill CD had been improved, his arms and fists were shining brightly. All of his kung fu is based on this Iron Fist move. The chi cultivated by Kunlun is not fundamentally different from the chi cultivated by Sun Wuming. They are all a kind of development of life energy. It's just that Sun Wuming's physique is better, and the effect of Guixianliu's chi training is much stronger than that of Kunlun, especially Kunlun in this world. Iron Fist's attack, in the eyes of Sun Wuming, is as ridiculous as a baby. With both palms open, Sun Wuming directly received the 2 punches. Under Danny Rand's shocked gaze, the energy on the fist exploded like a stone sinking into the sea, without causing any waves. Luke Cage saw Sun Wuming with his hands entangled and attacked decisively. To cover him, Daredevil threw the last flying darts. Boom! The blue arrogance burst out, flying darts and Luke Cage were blown away at the same time. Iron Fist opened its mouth. No, it's impossible, how could there be such a powerful chi? During the years when he practiced in Kunlun, those masters and elders, even counting the Shou Lao, did not have such a huge energy. If the chi contained in his body is like a water tank, then what he feels from Sun Wuming now is a boundless ocean. Tekken people are stupid. Sun Wuming didn't intend to answer, and directly hit all three Iron Fists unconscious, leaving only Jessica who didn't make a move in the end. Can I surrender? Jessica shrank her neck. She just stood up to stop Sun Wuming and was also infected by the other three, feeling emotional. Now the three elders didn't even survive a single move, they were all lying on the ground, and their energy was almost exhausted. Then take them all away. Sun Wuming smiled, and Jessica dragged Matt and the others to the elevator as if she had been pardoned. This man is terrible, she never wants to meet again in her life. Then, you are left alone, Miss Spider, how are you going to beat me, the big devil, and squeeze me dry? As Jessica disappeared into the elevator, only Sun Wuming and Gwen remained in the underground space. Sun Wuming was not in a hurry to break through the wall, but teased Gwen's jaw. Just like a pervert who molested my little girl. Gwen slapped Sun Wuming's hand off angrily. Don't make trouble, now I am a good person and you are a bad person. We are in a hostile relationship. Cosplay. I like it. Gwen took off the hood, looked at the boy very seriously and asked, Wuming, are you sure that what you are going to do will not harm New York? The consequences that Daredevil and others said are serious, and Gwen still intends to confirm it again. Don't worry, it will cause some small earthquakes at most, and then I will seal this place again to ensure that no one can find the Keel. Sun Wuming assured. The energy contained in the Keel is extremely huge, so I will take away 100 million points. All right, Gwen nodded, then you have to hurry up, the police will be here soon. They won't be so fast, I promise. Sun Wuming smiled and said with certainty. He called Winston just now and asked him to notify Jin Bin to prevent the police from approaching here. If this little thing can't be done, Jin Bin won't be the underground emperor of New York. Go back to the Texas countryside and start a slave plantation. Boom. Sun Wuming slammed his fist on the pitch-black wall, and the wall shattered, revealing a passage. The two walked in together, and Gwen was a little scared by the dark environment, so she hugged Sun Wuming's arm tightly, sticking tightly. Passing through the narrow and dark passage, the eyes suddenly opened up. They came to a natural cave, and the space inside was much larger than the one dug out by the hand. Gwen opened his mouth wide and looked at the huge skeleton in front of him. It's so big, it's even bigger than a whale. And it glows. Is it sprinkled with fluorescent powder? This is the so-called Keel. Sun Wuming took a few steps forward, stroked the faintly fluorescent skull, and said in a low voice. Chapter 51. Outside, the Hell's Kitchen Police Department received a report from Fergie Nelson and Karen Page. Out of trust in Daredevil, Inspector Misty still believed their words and prepared to call the police, but at this moment, the police station's call to the police went off in an instant. In the area of Hell's Kitchen, a large number of people fought and burned, causing huge amounts of chaos. It's a hand conspiracy. They're stalling, the female reporter Peggy said impatiently, and Misty shook her head helplessly, but this is effective, and our police force was emptied in an instant. Foggy asked, then what should we do now? Daredevil and the others have already gone to the Midtown Financial Circle. Misty thought for a moment, then called the NYPD headquarters to apply for support. And the black hand behind all this, Jin Bin, also received a mysterious phone call. Stop your little actions, or I don't mind putting you in prison for 500 years. Who are you? Jin Bin frowned, looking at the unknown number on the phone. You don't deserve to know. I'll give you 30 seconds to think about it. After this time, the Sidewinder missile will be delivered to your home. After speaking, he hung up the phone. Jin Bin's face was cloudy and uncertain, and he once again experienced the feeling of being contemptuous. Be it the Saiyan, or the owner of this mysterious phone, they didn't take themselves seriously at all. Jin didn't feel humiliated, but he didn't dare to gamble. The other party revealed a few secrets of his own in a few words, so since he said that he was going to entertain him with a Sidewinder missile, it must not be a lie. Let everyone come back. ... How do you plan to absorb it, eat it? In the underground cave, Gwen looked at the behemoth in front of him, and his skin was about to get goosebumps. In the dark space, a pile of bone frames emit fluorescence, and this scene alone is creepy. Imagine Sun Wuming breaking off the bones piece by piece, and then chewing and chewing. Gwen shivered violently. What are you thinking? I'm not that disgusting. Patting the girl's little head, Sun Wuming circled the keel, and then flew into the air. Open the palm, release the chi in the body, wrap the keel completely, trying to penetrate it. After being stimulated by him, Keel instinctively began to resist, and the green fluorescent light flourished, illuminating the entire space, and Gwen took a few steps back, afraid of disturbing Sun Wuming. Without Shou Lao's soul, the Keel is essentially a treasure containing powerful life energy. The hand would use bone powder to prepare special potions to capture the energy in the Keel and prolong their lifespan. Now, what Sun Wuming has to do is to bring the energy of the Keel back into his body, which can also be regarded as a kind of devouring. He constantly adjusted his aura, aligning with the Keel's aura fluctuations. It was like picking a lock. Sun Wuming constantly tried the keys until he made a lock that could unscrew the Keel. Click. After the door opens, Sun Wuming will be regarded as the master of this room, and he can take away everything he wants. The surging energy found a gap, vented out, and flowed back into Sun Wuming's body constantly. At this moment, his momentum was soaring, and his hair was standing upside down. Gwen felt that it was difficult to breathe, and retreated again and again, and had already reached the edge of the passage. With the energy loss of the Keel, this space also became unstable, causing 2 earthquakes in a row. Wuming, stop eating, New York is really going to be ruined. Gwen was very entangled at the moment, thinking about whether to interrupt Sun Wuming. Hi. Fortunately, Sun Wuming finally opened his eyes, let out a satisfied belch, and landed on the ground. He had a bit of indigestion from taking in too much at once. At the moment, there was less than 20% of the energy left in Keel's body, and if he sucked it in, something might really happen, so Sun Wuming let it go. Anyway, today's harvest has been great. Let's go, I have to retreat to practice when I go home. Sun Wuming said to Gwen in a very comfortable mood. Gwen pointed to the other end of the passage. What about this seal, can you fix it? Sun Wuming shook his head. Don't bother, the Iron Fist seal will be repaired automatically, and it will be back to normal in a few hours. Gwen was relieved. I hope this secret will never be exposed for the rest of my life. I don't want to fall asleep and suddenly the house collapses. Then I'll add another insurance. Sun Wuming said suddenly. At the construction site, a large number of policemen have rushed to the scene. Even George, who is the chief of police, has also come. A cordon has been set up around, and the people in the 2 nearby blocks were all evacuated. After doing this, the police did not enter the building rashly. There have been 2 consecutive earthquakes just now, and this building is already in danger. Once there is another earthquake, no one can escape. The situation thus stalemate. George was arranging the on-site work, but he saw his subordinates walking towards him with a middle-aged man with a tall hairline. Although the man's smile was very kind, George was still very dissatisfied. Sir, it's very dangerous here now, please don't disturb the work of our police. Hello, Chief George. Phil Coulson didn't mind George's cold face, and took out his ID and some A4 papers from his suit pocket. Phil Coulson, FBI high-level agent, we have been authorized, and we will be fully responsible for this operation. FBI. George's face turned cold. I took a look at the authorization letter and Phil Coulson's ID, and after confirming that they were all true, I felt extremely dissatisfied. It is not once or twice that these agent organizations have interfered in local affairs with their high authority, but with the documents, everything they do is legal and compliant, and George has nothing to do. Need help? George asked again. Thank you, Director George, for your kindness, but we still have enough manpower. Phil Coulson still kept smiling. While speaking, a group of agents in suits and leather shoes had already taken over the police duties. Several heavily armed teams were about to enter the building. A rumbling sound suddenly came from inside. Boom, boom, boom. The strange noise became louder and louder. Phil Coulson immediately stopped the special operations team and told them to retreat. Just about to leave, George and other members of the police force quickly stopped and turned to look in the direction of the building. A large cloud of dust came out from the building, and then the sound of heavy objects falling became louder and louder. Mr. Agent, I suggest that you should step back, this building is about to collapse. George, keenly aware of the tremor in the ground, yelled at Phil Coulson. A group of blue rays of light broke through the roof and came into midair. Phil Coulson quickly picked up the telescope and looked towards the sky. Honey, your head is really hard. Gwen, who was in Sun Wuming's arms, said seriously. Just now, the two rushed up from hundreds of meters underground, and all the concrete and steel bars they encountered were all lifted by Sun Wuming. Believe me, your head will also become very hard in the future. Sun Wuming responded to Gwen's teasing, pretending to be serious, which was unique to the two of them. Immediately afterwards, he turned his gaze downwards, holding Gwen in one hand, and a blue light was already shining in the other hand. As long as the hole in the ground is filled, the keel will be absolutely safe. Sun Wuming explained to the girl that with her supervision, Gwen saw a group of policemen and agents and reminded, "Don't affect other people, can you? You don't believe in my strength." After speaking, Sun Wuming pressed down with one free hand. Drink. The thick energy wave dragged a long tail flame, and went straight to the building. It was so dazzling and eye-catching in the dark night sky. Boom. The strong flash made people unable to keep their eyes open, and Phil Coulson stretched out his hand to block it in front of him and shouted, "Run! The farther the better." The dust all over the sky almost stuffed his mouth, and the agents ran away in a panic. It took a full 30 seconds for the dazzling light to disappear. The building with a height of nearly 100 meters has disappeared, replaced by ruins all over the place. Most of the main body of the building has been pressed into the ground. From then on this land, unless someone spends a lot of money and energy to hollow out all the ruins. Otherwise there would never be a house in sight, because the foundations would have been ruined. Great, I want to learn this trick. Gwen first confirmed that her father and the others were not injured, but a little embarrassed, and then cheered. She has some distaste for killing people, but not for the loss of money, destroying the property of bad guys, and keeping the city safe. This made her feel that Wuming was the thieves in the story, and the love in her eyes overflowed. If you want to learn, you have to please the teacher. Maybe I'll teach you as soon as I'm happy. Sun Wuming hinted frantically, and Gwen smacked his chest shyly. On the ground, although the police and agents are covered in dust, they look like they just came out of the desert. But in the end no one was injured, which shows the precision of Sun Wuming's power control. Looking at the distant blue streamer in the sky, Phil Coulson put down his binoculars and muttered to himself. This world is too crazy. If the Saiyans do demolition, they will definitely become the richest man in the United States. He was ordered by Nick Fury to take over the case because according to intelligence, the recent actions of the Hand Society are inseparable from the Saiyans. His main task is to get close to the Saiyans and have a good talk with them in order to establish a preliminary relationship. Looking at it this way, the mission appears to have failed. However, Phil Coulson felt that the reward was greater. Through the binoculars, he could clearly see the face of the lower Saiyan surrounded by gas flames. Sun Wuming didn't change his appearance anymore, and he wasn't a killer anymore, so there was no need to hide like this. The main thing is that after he changed his appearance, Gwen didn't like it so much, and Sun Wuming stopped doing it. Leaving his men on the scene to deal with the aftermath, Phil Coulson got into his car and sped toward Washington. 2 hours later, Phil Coulson showed up in Nick Fury's office. "You said you saw the true face of a Saiyan." "No, it's just another face. I'm not sure if it's the real face." As an agent, Phil Coulson has mastered some basic skills very proficiently. He immediately picked up the paper and pen and started drawing with the memory in his mind. Sun Wuming is actually very easy to remember. After all, he is very handsome, which is amazing and unforgettable. Soon, a stick figure was placed in front of Nick Fury, and with the authority of S.H.I.E.L.D., the target was quickly locked. Wuming's son. Phil Coulson leaned over, looked at the photo, and said with great certainty, "Boss, that's him. Such a handsome Asian is too rare, and he has such muscles. I just don't know, it's the Saiyan who disguised himself as him, or the Saiyan himself." Nick Fury didn't jump to conclusions, but browsed the data of Sun Wuming. Soon, he found something suspicious. Sun Wuming is too rich. The shares of Stark Industries he once held were worth tens of millions of dollars, and his monthly bank expenses exceeded $100,000. The old man who adopted him did not have such a rich family background. Nick Fury is sure that there is definitely something wrong with Sun Wuming, and it is very likely that he is a Saiyan. Phil Coulson. As soon as Fury called his name again, Phil Coulson quickly reminded, "Boss, I'm still following up the case of Stark Industries, and I really don't have time." My own boss is good at everything, but he likes to grab someone and use it too much. Recently, he doesn't even have time to do scalp care, and he really doesn't want to have another job at hand. Okay then, Fury sighed, and after thinking about it, it's not a good thing to be in contact with Sun Wuming for a while. The character of the other party is unpredictable, and it is not an exaggeration to call it murderous. Sending people to follow up hastily may have the opposite effect. We must wait for an appropriate time. After absorbing the power of the Keel, Sun Wuming returned home and began to practice. At the moment, he was like a fat man after overeating, almost double the energy accumulated in his body, which made Sun Wuming full of strength, but also brought hidden dangers. After all, external forces are not as reliable as self-cultivation. At the beginning, Monkey King drank the super divine water and survived with difficulty. Now Sun Wuming is not that dangerous, but this energy needs to be tempered before it can be completely transformed into its own strength. But he ran into another problem. With the current level of technology and material technology, the equipment in Sun Wuming's hands can no longer meet his cultivation needs. The Continental has some higher level materials, but not by much, and that weight gain is a drop in the bucket. In other words, he had to travel far away. The next day, as usual, Gwen came to the house to find Sun Wuming to go to school with, but got an unexpected answer. Sorry Gwen, I can't accompany you to school at the latest. Gwen was taken aback. Why? I have to go to other places to practice. The equipment at home can't meet my needs. Gwen's mood was visibly depressed. Sun Wuming rubbed the girl's little head and comforted him. It's not that I won't come back, but I'm not sure when I will come back. So where are you going? Is there any danger? The bottom of the sea. Sun Wuming said softly, only the deep sea can bring me pressure. In fact, I should have gone there a long time ago. There is no gravity room, no high-tech load, on Earth, only the high-pressure environment of the deep sea can meet his cultivation needs. After making a promise to Gwen that she would spend one day a week with her, Gwen went to school alone unhappy. Once the most difficult one is done, the rest will be easy to solve. After calling the school first and donating another 2 million, he got the final exam results ahead of schedule and was awarded the title of honorary alumnus. Then there is the supply. Saiyans are powerful in battle, but they also need to eat and drink, especially during high-intensity cultivation. The need for food is extremely terrifying. Tell Winston to prepare high-calorie food for 100 people at his home for a long time, and once it is found that it has been consumed, it must be replenished immediately. After all the preparations were completed, Sun Wuming flew towards the coastline. Flying all the way over New York, into the vast and boundless Atlantic Ocean. Half an hour later, after traveling thousands of kilometers further, Sun Wuming stopped. It is too close to the land, the ocean depth is not enough, and it is easily disturbed by fishing boats and cruise ships. In the center of the Atlantic Ocean, it is almost a forbidden area for humans. A plunge into the sea, Sun Wuming sinks continuously, and the pressure will increase by 9.8 megapascals for every 1,000 meters deep. What concept? Without any protective measures, normal human beings will not be able to breathe at a depth of 200 meters, and their bones will start to shatter if they exceed 1,000 meters. Sun Wuming sank directly to 5,000 meters before his body felt a little pressure. But here, there are very few creatures to be seen, and even if there are, they are some strange-shaped species. At 6,000 meters, he finally stopped going down. Even if he moved a step, it would become extremely difficult. The surrounding sea water turned into an iron wall, constantly squeezing Sun Wuming's body. Through the circulation of qi, the outer qi was transformed into inner qi, and Sun Wuming started his own penance career. The first thing to do is to practice walking. His expression was ferocious, and he seemed to have exhausted all his strength to lift his legs. It took him a long time to take the first step. 1 step, 2 steps. ... New York. Since Sun Wuming entered the state of cultivation, Gwen has become listless, as if life has lost its color. Although we can see each other from time to time, every time Sun Wuming comes back, he looks tired, either eating or sleeping soundly. It was too late for Gwen to be distressed, so why bother him? George and Helen saw it, but they didn't know how to persuade them. To the outside world, Gwen said that Sun Wuming was going to participate in the competition, and in order not to disturb him, he could not call. It's only been a few days and I don't think about food or tea anymore. My daughter is too poisoned. Walking on the street, Gwen looked at the familiar street. In the past, there would be a lazy teenager by his side, but now he was alone. Now, Gwen finally understands why Sun Wuming always said that companionship is the longest confession of love. It turned out that the world would be different with him around and without him. To keep her spirits up, Gwen put more energy into being Spider-Woman. New Yorkers have discovered that Spider-Woman is appearing more and more frequently, and perhaps they can see her vigorous figure wandering among skyscrapers when they look up. Continental Hotel. Is there no news about the other 2 Dragon Balls? Winston called Karen, and Sun Wuming told him that there are 7 Dragon Balls in total, and 5 of them have been collected now. The last 2 must be found no matter what. Sorry sir, there are no clues about Dragon Ball these days. With our current strength, this step is already the limit. Winston lowered his head to think for a few seconds, and suddenly saw the gold coin box on the table. This is a batch of hotel gold coins that have just been delivered. Let the continental hotels in other regions help us release missions, maybe those 2 Dragon Balls are not in North America. Sir, is this a bit out of bounds? Karen hesitated. There is no direct competition between hotels in various continents, but the hidden rule is that each manages its own territory. It was too long for Winston to release missions in other regions with such a big fanfare. Winston stood up, came to Karen and patted the right-hand man on the shoulder, and said meaningfully, Karen, this world is different. Absolute strength can break any rule. In this way, a month passed quietly. In the Middle East, the terrorist organization 10 Rings attacked the Rice Army convoy 3 months ago and captured the seriously injured Tony Stark. With the help of Dr. Ethan, although Tony escaped death, under the threat of terrorist organizations, he still has to make weapons for them. But Tony, who is a genius scientist and a playboy, how could he help 10 Rings honestly? During this period of time, he used materials sent by terrorist organizations to forcibly rub out the first-generation miniature arc reactor, embedded in his chest, and firmly absorb the shrapnel that wanted to penetrate his heart. At the same time, he was quietly building an armor that could help him and Ethan escape. Clang, clang, clang. The crisp sound of hammering iron came from the cave, and the Mk1 battle armor was about to be completed. Tony, whose face had been gloomy for 3 months, also showed a rare smile. Speaking of which, Ethan, what do you want to do after you go out? Me, Ethan, who was sitting in front of the computer and helping Tony check the data, was taken aback, with a look of reminiscence in his eyes. I want to see my family. Most definitely. Tony was silent for 2 seconds, then spoke softly. At the last step, when the Mk1 armor was about to be completely completed, the members of 10 Rings discovered something was wrong. Hearing the sound of footsteps outside, Ethan finally chose to sacrifice his life to buy time for Tony. Although they have only been together for less than 3 months, Tony has undoubtedly regarded Ethan as a true friend. With Ethan's legacy in mind, Tony wore the armor and broke out of the 10 Rings base. After flying dozens of kilometers, the armor finally fell apart. Maybe it's because his life shouldn't die, or maybe it's because he is the son of destiny in this world. In this vast desert, before Tony died of thirst, he was finally found by the rescue team who never gave up looking for him. A day later, on a military plane, Tony set foot on the United States again. On the tarmac, when Tony appeared in bandages, Pepper's eyes filled with tears. Feeling sad for the boss, Tony joked, "No, it's tears of joy, I don't like looking for a job." After getting in the car, Pepper was about to tell Happy, who was acting as the driver, to go to the hospital but was interrupted by Tony. "Go back to the office, tell the press I'm holding a press conference, Happy, and buy me a cheeseburger on the way." Pepper said puzzled, "But Tony, your body." "I know my body well, don't worry, Pepper, go to the company." The car started and went straight to Manhattan. Tony on the road looked out of the window out of boredom, but was frightened stupid. Holy shit, what's this? Why would this person be swinging between skyscrapers? When Happy heard this, he smiled foolishly. "Boss, this is Spider-Woman. You will get used to it after seeing her a lot. She is a good neighbor to New Yorkers." Seeing the two of them fully accepting this setting, Tony couldn't help but fall into self-doubt when he seemed to be making too much fuss. I disappeared for 3 months, will New York change? Osborne Industries. Norman, after the discussion of the board of directors, your position as chairman has been removed. The recent Osborne industry can be said to be leaking and raining overnight. Although the lizard man was not known to the general public, the higher-ups naturally knew the true identity of Dr. Connors. As a result, Osborne Industries lost a large defense order. And not long ago, an electric engineer of the company had an accident while overhauling the circuit, and turned into a special existence of half energy, half life, which caused a lot of trouble. In the end, Spider-Woman came forward to subdue him and sent him to prison. 2 consecutive accidents at Osborne Industries made the government completely impatient with them. The board of directors must push out a person with weight to take the blame. So, who else is more suitable to be the backer than the chairman who single-handedly promotes biological genetic experiments? Although named Osborne Industries, the rest of the board combined to impeach Norman. Lying on the hospital bed, watching the directors leaving one after another through the video, Norman did not show any anger. Instead he laughed, but his smile made people feel creepy, and they didn't dare to look at him for another second. Norman took a vial of green serum out of the drawer. This is the most stable gene serum produced so far, integrating Dr. Lizard's terror-repairing ability and Spider Serum's agility. But the risk is still very high, and none of the experimenters who were injected with the serum reached a perfect state. But now Norman can't wait any longer. He wants to survive, he wants to take revenge on those businessmen who follow the trend, and he wants to take revenge on this society. Ah! A creepy roar came from the high-level ward, and then disappeared, and everything fell into silence. Half an hour later, a green figure stepped on a flight controller and flew out of the building. He succeeded. Facing the mirror-like glass, Osborne constantly made difficult flight movements and let out a series of laughs. At the moment Norman felt empowered as the genetic disease that had been tormenting the Osborne family finally disappeared from his body. The feeling of being healthy was so wonderful that every second of his life was tormented by his dry body. Flight is in the sky. Green Goblin's personality is constantly expanding. Looking at the bustling city, he has a strong impulse in his heart. He wants to destroy all good things. The next day, 2 news colleagues made headlines on the front page of the newspaper, each occupying half of the country. Tony Stark has returned after disappearing for 3 months. Announced that the Stark Group's weapons manufacturing department will be permanently closed. Terrorist attack. A green man stepped on a flight gun and dropped a large number of bombs, causing hundreds of casualties. Who is responsible for this? In a beach house, Tony browsed the file-size incidents in New York during the months of his disappearance. Spider-Woman, Lizard Monster, Saiyan, Electro, and this new Green Goblin. Have I been missing for 3 months or 3 years? Why is biotechnology blowing out all of a sudden? Although Tony Stark's main research direction is applied physics, a genius is a genius. He can tell at a glance that Spider-Woman and Lizard-Man are both products of biological experiments. And that Green Goblin, the bomb, contains a strong corrosive poisonous gas, and it is also biochemical. JARVIS, can you lock the identities of these people? Sir, according to the information collected on the internet and the company's information database, it can be determined that the real identity of the Lizard Man is Curt Connors. Electric Man's true identity is the former Osborne industrial electrical engineer, Max Dillon. Spider-Woman has targeted 18 suspected targets. Saiyans and Green Goblin have little information, so it is impossible to give an accurate judgment. Immediately, JARVIS retrieved all the information of Connors and Max. An employee of Osborne. Tony raised an eyebrow. As the 2 technology giants of the United States, Osborne and Stark have different research directions. One is biased towards bioengineering, and the other is biased towards physical technology. However, the main partners of the 2 parties are the military, which also leads to a competitive relationship between Stark and Osborne. Because of Tony's existence, Stark can suppress Osborne, and now seeing the other party make such a big mess, he also feels a little gloating. But Tony soon stopped being disturbed by the unexpected world, and concentrated on studying the Mk2 armor. Tony has been extremely anxious and insecure since returning to the United States. Only the feeling of being wrapped in a battle armor can bring him a little peace of mind. Meanwhile, Gwen is also on the hunt for the Green Goblin. Since she became Spider-Woman, New York has never been peaceful. The lizard disappeared and the hand came out, and the hand came out in the Electro. Not long after Electro was locked up, here comes a Green Goblin. Compared with the previous villains, Green Goblin seems to be more difficult to deal with. Because of his wisdom and rationality, Green Goblin killed a large number of ordinary people before Gwen arrived and walked away. A few days later, Green Goblin finally reappeared. He stepped on the flight controller, and randomly sprinkled the pumpkin bombs in his hand on the crowd. Every small pumpkin that looks like a pocket can trigger a violent explosion when it falls on the ground, which will affect the surrounding cars and trigger a chain reaction. The bustling Fifth Avenue turned into a hell on earth in an instant. People screamed and fled this area, but how could two legs run past a Green Goblin with a flight device? Green Goblin yelled strangely and caught up with the group of people who ran away, and dropped the bomb again to end their lives. The excitement in his heart couldn't be more exciting. The worse he screamed, the happier he was. Suddenly, Green Goblin saw the building in front of him, and Spider-Woman wearing a black and white battle suit was constantly approaching him with the help of the cobweb. Seeing the arrival of Spider-Woman, Green Goblin temporarily gave up attacking the people and went forward instead of retreating. After waiting for Gwen to approach, the pumpkin launcher under his feet fired 2 pumpkin bombs. Whizzing. Gwen's reaction was extremely fast. The cobweb wrapped the bomb, and then he threw it hard, and the bomb was returned. Boom, boom. After the violent explosion, Green Goblin fell from the flight controller to the ground, looking very embarrassed. Spider-Woman is here. We're saved. The crowd on the ground saw that Gwen suppressed Green Goblin as soon as he made a move, and immediately felt relieved. They stopped running and just stood there watching the show. Green Goblin, you madman. I'm going to send you to prison to atone for everything you've done. Gwen Absorbent was on the wall, looking at the dead people, extremely angry. You're right, I'm a lunatic. What's wrong with a lunatic doing crazy things? Norman Osborn, who only showed half of his face, looked at Gwen and sneered, what about you? Spider brat, you're just a thief. You stole other people's experimental results, and you brazenly showed them off. Gwen's heart skipped a beat. Green Goblin's words meant something, and he seemed to know how he obtained his ability. I never thought it was showing off. I just wanted to do something meaningful, like, catch you and hand it over to the police. You think you can do it? Green Goblin laughed maniacally, and the time the two of them talked, the flight controller had returned to his feet. The 2 sharp wings were used as weapons, and everything that passed was split in half. After such a long period of training, Gwen's spider genes have been completely integrated, and her strength and agility have reached their peak. Not only that, she has also made great progress in the practice of Guixiangliu. Gwen does a backflip, dodges a Green Goblin pounce, and shoots a cobweb that binds the flight to try to limit his movement. Sorry sir, your wheelchair will be confiscated by me. A sharp-tongued woman. Green Goblin stepped hard, and the flight device rotated at a high speed, cutting off the cobweb's entanglement. The two started a street fight in this forest of skyscrapers. With the blessing of the flight weapon, Green Goblin can move more flexibly in the air than Gwen. With the sharpness of the flight weapon, he can also cut off Gwen's cobweb. However, his attack could not pose any threat to Gwen. The pumpkin bomb with the strongest firepower could be easily dodged by Gwen, and even if he seized the opportunity, the opponent could throw it back, making him embarrassed. Spider-Woman, you. Green Goblin was mad with hatred in his heart, why he couldn't beat this spider kid even though he injected the serum. Obviously his serum is the strongest existence that combines lizards and spiders. He, Green Goblin, is the strongest. Spider-Woman, she's just a despicable thief. The suppressed anger finally drove Green Goblin completely crazy. He gave up attacking Gwen, and aimed all his firepower at the crowd and buildings. In order to rescue the people, Gwen gradually fell into a disadvantage. This was the first time she had encountered such a crazy opponent. Neither the Lizard Man nor the Electron Man was as crazy as Green Goblin, and they didn't put the lives of ordinary people in their eyes at all. Gwen was also angry. She fell to the ground, pulled up street lamps, fire hydrants, utility poles, and threw all the things that could be thrown towards the Green Goblin in the air. Boom! Accidentally, Green Goblin's flight gun was hit, and blue smoke came out. Looking at the sky, in the distance, the police helicopter was coming towards here. Green Goblin knew that he could no longer entangle Spider-Woman. I'll be back. As long as you're in New York for a day, then I'm the city's nightmare. After speaking, he poured out all the remaining firepower and escaped with the help of chaos. And because Gwen wanted to intercept the pumpkin bomb, he could only watch Green Goblin disappear in midair, leaving behind a scene of hell. While this has happened to New York several times, there's no doubt that Green Goblin did the most damage this time around. Hundreds of people were killed and countless public facilities were destroyed in the first appearance. The second time, I came to Fifth Avenue, which is the center of Manhattan, where countless elites gather. Several directors of Osborne Industries were killed, hundreds more were killed, and 2 buildings were badly damaged. Economic losses came in the billions of dollars. This completely detonated public opinion. On the internet and in newspapers, people crazily criticized the government and the police, and cursed Green Goblin. Even Gwen was not spared. Spider-Woman should be responsible for this incident. Without her fighting with Green Goblin, maybe the loss would not have been so heavy. She is the representative of disaster. Since the appearance of Spider-Woman, all kinds of monsters and ghosts have appeared. I suspect that they are in the same group. That's right, how peaceful New York was before. Except for gun battles, flour, and human trafficking, there will never be such monsters. Spider-Woman is the source. What does NYPD do? Why hasn't Spider-Woman's true identity been announced yet? Facing the anger of the public, the police also took advantage of the situation and announced that they would shift all responsibility to Green Goblin and Spider-Woman, and officially listed them as wanted criminals. Gwen sat in front of the computer, watching the comments and speeches, her eyes full of pain. Why did it become like this? I was clearly trying to make this city a better place, but why should I classify her with those evil people? And my father actually wanted me to. For a moment, Gwen fell into deep self-doubt, looking at the battlesuit on the bed, her fingers trembling slightly. Atlantic Ocean, Puerto Rico Trench, 9,000 meters deep. It is dark here, like an abyss, and sunlight cannot penetrate the depth of 9,000 meters to come to this restricted area of life. Rumble, rumble, a strange muffled sound came, the sea current became violent, and the ground trembled slightly. The muscles of Sun Wuming's hands were raised high, and the veins were exposed. He gritted his teeth tightly and pushed a hill to move slowly. 1 meter, 2 meters, 10,000 meters. It was a full 100,000 meters before he stopped, and then closed his eyes and meditated. After more than a month of penance, Sun Wuming moved from 6,000 meters under the sea to 9,000 meters under the sea. From running very hard at the beginning, to being able to push a hill now. His progress has been enormous. The body has been tempered under tremendous pressure, as if it has been trained for a long time. Under the streamlined body, the power of explosion is hidden, and the energy absorbed from the keel is completely digested. Compared with before, the strength has more than tripled. However, Sun Wuming did not know what stage his strength was at, having never fought against a strong man. In Marvel, there is a set of strength division standards. They are the most planet level, level sub-Godfather, level single universe, and multi-universe levels. The star level is the broadest, from the lowest level of Daredevil, to Thor who has not yet awakened Thor's power. They are both at the same star level, but their destructive power is not the same. A level sub-Godfather refers to an existence that can display part of the strength of a level Godfather, but as long as it is against a real level Godfather, it will undoubtedly lose. Such as Thanos without gems, Doctor Strange with Time Gem, Hela who is not in Asgard. And the level Godfather is the overlord in the single universe, at least able to sit on a galaxy, and the Heavenly Father is also called the God King. Only the leader of a pantheon can reach the level of level Godfather. The representative figures are Odin and Ancient One. Before these two bosses died, Thanos knew that the space gem was here, and he didn't even dare to put one. As for level single universe, multi-universe level, super universe level, and almighty universe level, these realms are still far away from the current Sun Wuming, and he can't figure it out. According to Sun Wuming's estimate, his current strength should have broken through the star level, but it is difficult to estimate his specific position among the sub-celestial fathers. It's almost enough to practice here. This is the deepest seabed in the Atlantic Ocean. Even if it is changed to the Mariana Trench, it will not cause a qualitative change. Sun Wuming thought, the harshest environment on Earth has been conquered by him, and the remaining strength improvement is not so easy. So, it's time to relax, too. During this period of time, he didn't accompany Gwen well, which made Sun Wuming feel a little guilty. Drink. Sun Wuming yelled violently, and the chi in his body exploded, opening up the nearby seawater. With his body as the center, the seawater above was directly opened up, and a strange scene of water flowing backwards appeared. Wukong activated, Sun Wuming soared into the sky, crossed the sea, and quickly flew towards New York, and clusters of sonic boom clouds formed behind him. The speed of Sun Wuming is also several times faster than before, reaching the terrifying level of Mach 10. With a distance of thousands of kilometers, he flew back to New York in less than half an hour. The first thing I did when I got home was to find my phone and send Gwen a message. Gwen, I'm back. At Gwen's house, Gwen, who was watching TV to pass the time, heard the phone ringing, and casually picked it up. I thought it was MJ and Betty who asked her to go shopping. But after seeing the person who wrote the letter, his eyes lit up immediately. Dad, Mom, I'm going out for a while, Wuming is back. After finishing speaking, without waiting for the two to reply, Gwen went back to the room and changed clothes, looked at the battle suit hesitation hidden in the deepest part of the closet for a moment, turned around and walked out of the house without reaching for it. This child, he was so happy when he heard that Wuming was back. Helen chuckled, and she was also very happy to see Gwen back to normal. They all said that love is the most effective antidote in the world. Perhaps the antidote that belongs to Gwen is Wuming. But George, who was resting at home on the weekend, looked at the door thoughtfully. He heard from Helen that some time ago, Gwen was away from home all day, but these days she always stays at home with nothing to do. Miraculously, Spider-Woman has also disappeared these days and never appeared on the streets of New York again. Coupled with some clues and ideas he had obtained before, George's heart was shaken, and an astonishing guess emerged. Spider-Woman, is it Gwen? On the other side, Gwen has come to Sun Wuming's house. When the two met, they hugged each other without saying a word, and then kissed passionately, expressing their lovesickness. Like two beavers fighting over grapes. It took more than 10 minutes for the overlapping figures to separate, and Gwen gasped heavily, feeling a lack of oxygen. Sun Wuming carried her back to the living room, and asked softly when Gwen recovered. Gwen, what happened? The person who knows Sun Wuming best is Gwen, and the person who knows Gwen best is also Sun Wuming. As soon as they met, Sun Wuming discovered Gwen's abnormality. Although Gwen concealed it well, the smile she showed was sincere. But Sun Wuming could see a trace of melancholy from between her brows. Thinking of this, the anger in Sun Wuming's heart rose steadily. For him, Gwen is the most important person in this world, bar none. Because of Gwen, Sun Wuming has a bond with this world. It can be said that Gwen is the anchor of his existence in the sub-world. If there is no Gwen by his side, maybe he has grown into a standard Saiyan, belligerent, tyrannical, and emotionally weak. Even if the world is destroyed, it is not uncommon. Now someone dared to provoke his Gwen to be unhappy. Thinking of this, Sun Wuming felt a wave of tyranny out of thin air. No, I'm just so happy to see you back, what's the matter, I'm Spider-Woman. Gwen still wanted to hide the past, but Sun Wuming saw through it at a glance. He kissed the girl's forehead and asked softly, if that's the case, then why did you take a taxi here? Gwen was silent. She didn't know what kind of purpose she would have after wearing the battle suit. Anger, resentment, or complaining. Either way, Gwen didn't want to face it. In a depressed mood, she spoke about her recent experience, Green Goblin's arrogance and cruelty, the responsibilities of the people, and her father's incomprehension. Su Wuming hugged the girl distressed-edly. It's not your fault, the ignorant and incompetent people always make up the majority in the world. When they're powerless in the face of disaster, they blame others, and you're just something they've found to vent. There is no Spider-Man, there is Tiger-Man, Leonman, anyway, they will not admit that they are incompetent. Let's not take that anger anymore, we won't be Spider-Woman anymore. Gwen hesitated for a moment, then nodded. She really doesn't want to act as Spider-Woman right now, so she might as well take a break for a while. After figuring it out, Gwen's depression dissipated a lot, and she twisted in Sun Wuming's arms to find a comfortable position. What about you? Do you want to continue practicing? Not for the time being. Sun Wuming shook his head. The strength has reached my current level. It is difficult to improve by practicing alone. I have to go through an evenly matched battle to break through quickly. It just so happens that it's summer vacation. How about we go out for a walk? Okay, where are you going? Gwen immediately became interested when she heard that she could go out to play. How about California? I happen to have a beach house over there. Sun Wuming definitely is bullshit. He has never been to California. Where is the beach house? But as long as Gwen agrees, Sun Wuming can buy a set immediately. Thinking of the beaches and sunshine in California, as well as their world of two, Gwen was really moved. Then let's go in these 2 days. No problem. Gwen sent a sweet kiss. With a boyfriend who loves her so much, the grievances she has suffered these days are nothing. The two were enjoying the long-lost warmth, and Gwen asked curiously, "My dear, what is your current strength?" Gwen has seen Sun Wuming take shots a few times, but each time he crushed them with ease, and the strength he showed was not even the tip of the iceberg. Coupled with the fact that he spent a month in the deep sea to practice hard this time, Gwen couldn't imagine that there is anyone on Earth who is Sun Wuming's opponent. What about me? Sun Wuming organized his words, and said with some uncertainty, "I'm not sure what my strength is, but at least it's not a problem to sink the North American continent with one blow." Gwen was dumbfounded. My boyfriend is so strong. Winston, help me buy a beach house in Los Angeles, with a private beach, the bigger the better. In the evening, urged by Mr. George's serial calls, Gwen reluctantly left Sun Wuming's house. Sun Wuming, on the other hand, immediately called Winston to make arrangements. Don't go to the house at that time, it will be a big embarrassment. Sir, have you forgotten? The Santino family property also has a lot of houses in Los Angeles, and they are reserved for you. After Winston finished speaking, Sun Wuming remembered that the properties of the Santino family were indeed all over the world. Then you choose the one with the best conditions, clean it up, and send the key over tomorrow. Yes. Okay, I agree. Gwen's house. Unexpectedly, Gwen thought it would take a lot of talking to convince George and Helen to let her go on vacation with Sun Wuming. But unexpectedly, she just mentioned it, and George decisively agreed. It's okay for you to go out and play, but Gwen, girls, you have to protect yourself. Your birthday is at the end of August. What George said was meaningful, but Gwen was stunned by his good words, and just nodded blankly. When her daughter returned to the room, Helen looked at her husband with a puzzled face. George, aren't you most worried about what will happen to Wuming and Gwen? Why are you so big-hearted today? I haven't objected yet. Why did you agree? George smiled and shook his head. My daughter has grown up, she knows what she's doing. Maybe we don't know Gwen well. Helen looked at her husband as if she was seeing a ghost. Couldn't this guy be stimulated by something? The next day, Sun Wuming took Gwen and boarded the plane to Los Angeles, staying away from the disputed land of New York for the time being. The two nestled in the villa and the private beach every day, enjoying the sun and sea breeze. There is also a quiet world of two. The thorough integration of the spider genes made Gwen's figure better and better, and Sun Wuming's index finger moved wildly. Now it's just the two of them. Even if Gwen screamed, no one agreed. Wuming, wait a little longer, okay. Gwen slapped someone's mischievous hands away, winking like silk, give me another month. Important things should be done at important points in time, so that it will be more meaningful. Faced with the girl's request, Sun Wuming naturally would not force it. Although as long as his attitude is firmer, Gwen will definitely push it halfway. There is no need to rush the meat to the mouth, it is more important to give two people a perfect experience. In New York, where Spider-Woman disappears, so does Green Goblin. Osborne Industries, Norman Osborn returned to his chairmanship. Several directors died, accidentally, in the attack launched by Green Goblin, which made him buy back the shares at a very low price. Many of the news criticizing Spider-Woman these days are fueled by him behind the scenes. At the same time, Norman also knows that without the people as restraints, his current strength is no match for Spider-Woman at all. If you want to completely defeat the opponent, you must upgrade your Green Goblin armor and flight. But in terms of weapon modification, the strength of Osborne Industry is already at its limit, unless it goes to Hanmer Industry or Stark Group for cooperation. This would undoubtedly reveal his Green Goblin identity. So, Norman chose another path. If one person can't beat you, then 2, 3. Connors and Electron, who were imprisoned in the laboratory and received inhuman torture every day, were his best choices. Perhaps this is fate. The villains who appeared in New York recently are all from the Osborne Group. Putting on the Green Goblin armor again, Norman was about to search to see where Connors and Electro were locked up, when a call came in. Obadiah Stine. Norman frowned. He had naturally heard of this name, the second largest shareholder of Stark Industries, and the two had met several times, but there was no friendship. Why did the other party come to him suddenly? Norman connected the phone, and there was a burst of hearty laughter from the headset, but the words he said made him shudder. He, should I call you Director Osborne, or Mr. Daredevil? Norman's whole body was cold, his body trembled slightly, and he pretended to be calm and replied. Mr. Stine, are you calling just as a joke? This is not funny at all. He. There was another chuckle. Osborne, don't play dumb, do you want me to call out the hospital video that day? Seeing that the other party had reached this point, Norman no longer pretended to be stupid, and there was a hint of evil in his voice. Obadiah, since you know my identity, are you trying to blackmail me? Norman, easy, don't be so nervous. To be honest, I admire your armor and flight controller very much. Maybe we can have some cooperation in the future. Cooperation? Norman was taken aback. Are you negotiating with me on behalf of Stark? Don't mention that disgusting name to me. Obadiah's voice suddenly became angry, snarling at the phone. Always be like this. Mention Stark Industries, people will always think of that playboy. What was he, Obadiah Stan? Joker. Norman laughed suddenly. He understood everything. It turns out that Obadiah, who has always been close to Tony Stark-like family, also hides unknown ambitions. But it just so happens that with Obadiah's help, his armor and bombs can also get better upgrades. Obadiah, you're right, we really should have a good talk. As Obadiah gave an address, Norman hung up the phone, stepped on the flight controller and sprinted away. Stark Industrial Park, Division 16. Taking advantage of the darkness, Green Goblin came to the place agreed with Obadiah. As soon as he landed, Yimo felt that there were more than a dozen sniper rifles aimed at him at the same time, and involuntarily took out the pumpkin bomb. Relax, my friend. Obadiah waved his hand, and the sniper rifle moved away instantly. He enthusiastically stepped forward and hugged Norman in front of him in armor. Mr. Green Goblin, with your help, I believe my plan will be successful. There are many scientists around. After hearing Green Goblin, they just looked at it curiously, turned their heads and continued with their work. It's cooperation, Obadiah, and it pays off. Definitely, your flight gear, plus my battle armor, the entire military order is ours. Obadiah sneered inwardly. Old man, I'll take care of you when I finish Stark. Norman also did not believe in Obadiah's promise, but the two sides now have a basis for cooperation, and it is not now to turn their faces. He looked at the huge steel monster in front of him. Is this the battle armor you designed? With all due respect, it is impossible to drive such a huge monster with the existing technology. This behemoth with a height of nearly 7 meters and a weight of tens of tons has a huge amount of hollow in its chest, which is obviously the place where the power is driven. Obadiah smiled triumphantly. If we can't do it, it doesn't mean that the playboy can't do it. Green Goblin understood immediately. You mean, Stark's technology has made another breakthrough. The world is so unfair that people who date cover girls every day can easily develop epic-making energy technology. And he worked so hard, invested a lot of money to develop a serum, and it took so much effort. For a while, Green Goblin hated Tony too. This kind of God's darling deserves to die. Obadiah smiled and didn't reveal any more information, just stated his request. I need you to improve the flight system and control system of this armor. No problem, what can I get? Stark Industries weapons are yours to choose. Green Goblin pointed to the big hole, and asked tentatively, what about this one? What do you think? Unless you hand over your serum technology, I can give you a finished arc reactor. Then forget it. Green Goblin shook his head. he knew for himself that his serum was a half-finished product, otherwise why didn't he delay injecting Harry? The reason why Green Goblin is eyeing Spider-Woman is also to get her blood to save Harry. Whether he's Norman Osborn or Green Goblin, he's a dad. I agree, let's get started now. Obadiah laughed and held out his hand, happy cooperation. By the way, I also hate Spider-Woman. She broke my deals several times. Inside the villa on Malibu Beach, Tony was hurrying to adjust his armor. Except for the energy provided by the core arc reactor, the other black technologies possessed by the MK armor are also numerous, such as shock absorption system, miniature weapon technology, power assist system. Taking out every item can make a person or company earn a lot of money, so that they can eat and drink for a lifetime. After changing several materials and smashing countless collected cars, Tony finally produced a armor that he was more satisfied with, which was named MK3. JARVIS, what color do you think is better? A gold colorway is recommended, depending on your preference. No, it's too ostentatious. Tony shook his head, looked at the car model next to him, and suddenly got inspiration. Mainly red, supplemented by gold. Here, just turn the visor into gold. Soon, a cool simulation picture appeared on the LCD screen. Tony clapped his hands, that's it. JARVIS echoed, this is in line with your usual low-key style. I don't recall adding a flattering system to your module. Sir, this is just telling the truth. After the battle armor was painted, with the help of the mechanical arm, Tony put on the battle armor. Flames burst out from under his feet, and flew into the sky from the big hole made in the previous experiment, all the way to the Middle East. In Ethan's hometown, he wiped out those local warlords. On the way back, he was mistaken for the enemy by the B-22 plane of the MI Army, which caused a riot. Fortunately, with the help of Rhodes, the matter was suppressed. A week passed quickly. Sun Wuming and Gwen's Los Angeles vacation also came to an end. During this week, the two stepped together every day, and visited all the fun places around them. Gwen also stepped out of the trough, with a smile on his face all the time. Playing every day would be boring. When the two of them didn't want to go out, Sun Wuming took the time to teach Gwen how to use chi. Inject her own chi into Gwen's body, let her experience this feeling well. With such an almost cheating method, Gwen quickly developed his own aura, which was very strong. After all, chi and physical fitness also have a great relationship. With Gwen's Superman-like physique, it is normal to have a huge chi. It's just that her control of chi is still far from enough. She can barely use qigong waves, but she can't even overturn a car, so it's better to get started. Gwen is not discouraged either. She is already very satisfied to be able to do this, and she can just make progress slowly in the future. By plane, the two return to New York. Although it is faster to fly back with Gwen, life is life, and acting like an ordinary person occasionally is also part of life. When I got home, it was already 8 o'clock in the evening after dinner. Wuming, I'll go back first. After not seeing her parents for a few days, Gwen still misses them a little. Great, see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Gwen kissed Sun Wuming, and bounced away. Looking at the girl's disappearing back, the smile on the corner of Sun Wuming's mouth slowly disappeared. Gwen has come out of the shadows, but the matter is not over yet. Those media who smeared Gwen will be sanctioned, and the culprit, Green Goblin, cannot escape. Sun Wuming never cared about what Gwen usually did, but if someone bullied his woman, the nature would change. Sun Wuming browsed the latest New York news. Green Goblin appeared only once, attacked a biological laboratory and then disappeared. Many netizens have begun to miss the days of Spider-Woman. In the first few days, criminals in New York thought that Spider-Woman was just resting for a few days and would reappear after a while. But after waiting and waiting, they had lost sight of the Spider-Woman roaming Manhattan and Queens, and they were emboldened again. Seeing that the crime rate is on the rise again, the public naturally understands why. Sun Wuming sneered. Self-inflicted evil cannot live. My family. Gwen acted as a vigilante with good intentions, but what he got in return was the criticism and disgust of these foolish people. Deserve it, because no real Green Goblin has been seen. So Sun Wuming couldn't lock his position through breath. But he also has a way. As long as he finds the independent atmosphere of high-speed movement, he is basically Green Goblin. In the following time, Sun Wuming will open up his perception every now and then. Finally, after 2 days, he caught a breath of high-speed movement in the air. There was no hesitation immediately, so I chased after him. JARVIS, testing for balance, pressure stability, and loss of life support function. The balance is 94%, and the air pressure remains stable. Currently, the life support function has consumed 2% of the total energy. Tony in the battle armor frowned slightly. The balance is too bad, and the consumption of the life support function is too high. It seems that it needs to be improved. Write it down, JARVIS. Yes, sir, I think you should look at this first. A radar detection map suddenly appeared on the screen, and a red dot was rapidly approaching him. What speed is that? Mach 5, Mach 7, Tony screamed strangely, and JARVIS gave a timely reminder, it's Mr. Mach 8.4. According to the orbit calculation, his target is you. It can't be a missile, right? Tony was anxious, thinking it was a missile launched by the military, and identified him as an unknown flight object. Immediately call Rhodes. I'm afraid not, it's a person. People. Before Tony could ask a question, a figure stopped in front of him, and the sonic boom came slowly behind him. It was Sun Wuming who came. Why you? Looking at the iron armor that was forcibly stopped by him, Sun Wuming was full of disgust. If he hadn't seen it, he would have forgotten it. Tony Stark has also returned to New York, and Green Goblin is not the only one who can fly in the sky. He said how Green Goblin could fly so fast, it was already supersonic. With this level of technology, the current Gwen is definitely not his opponent. What do you mean? Tony was taken aback for a moment, but immediately realized, no, you know who I am. Well, Playboy has a lot of shit, I'm fine, I'll go first. Sun Wuming shook his head in disappointment, and then flew towards home. Hey, wait, Tony hurriedly chased after him, but fortunately, Sun Wuming was not flying fast now, so he could still keep up. Is your English taught by your physical education teacher? My name is Stark, not a big shit. Why do you know it's me? Who the hell are you? Also, why can you fly? God, it's not scientific, so fast it will crush your body. Tony's mouth was chattering like a machine gun, and all the questions that popped out. The scene in front of him has collapsed the scientific worldview he spent decades building, and he is eager to know something from Sun Wuming. Somewhat impatient at being quarreled, Sun Wuming finally spoke. Aren't you a scientist? How can you be God if you just keep your mouth shut? Tony retorted. The end of science is theology, which is definitely not what ordinary people understand. From a scientific point of view, God is just a creature that we don't understand. That really made Tony right. Isn't a god like Thor the so-called alien? You can call me a Saiyan, or you can regard me as a god on Earth. I still deserve this title. It's crazy. Okay, big shit, that's all for today, I should go back to eat. After Sun Wuming left the last sentence, he suddenly accelerated, throwing Tony away. Sensing his breath, Gwen had already set off towards his house, and the two of them had to go out for lunch. He had no time to stay here and chat with a middle-aged man. Looking at the little red dot that is getting farther and farther away, Tony is still full of doubts about life. JARVIS, go back and help me make an appointment with a psychiatrist. I strongly suspect that everything just now is an illusion. Sir, the battle armor has a recording function, do you need to retrieve the recording for you? Shut up, you artificial mental retardation. Back in his villa, Tony immediately poured the armor video into the computer and inquired about Sun Wuming's personal information. Saiyan, Sun Wuming, he's still a high school student. No wonder he looks so young. Tony muttered, and looked at the information again, but found no useful information, so he didn't care about it. Turned around and devoted himself to the transformation of the armor. Today, he was completely abused in terms of speed. With Tony's competitive spirit, he naturally cannot tolerate such a thing happening. The battle armor must be modified to the most perfect state. The output power of the arc reactor can be increased, and more aerodynamic designs must be added to the armor. Just when Tony was forgetting about his work, Pepper came. Tony, do you need me? Hey Pepper, want something to drink? Tony came over. No thanks, the company still has a lot of things that I need to deal with. Little Pepper shook his head. The relationship between the two is a bit awkward now, more friends than lovers, coupled with the relationship between the boss and the employee. This makes Pepper don't know how to face Tony. Okay, try my whiskey next time you're not busy. Tony shrugged helplessly, sat across from Pepper, and took out a USB flash drive. Pepper, the only person I can trust now is you. I need you to do me a favor. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.